Right now, let's bring in Sean Deveney. Athlon Sports does a great job covering all things NBA. We were going to have Sean on yesterday, and we had a little mix-up, but you know what? I'm glad it worked out that way because the Cavs beat the Pistons last night, and we got a little bit more to talk about as far as that and the rest of the landscape in the NBA. Sean Deveney joining us live on the show, 1310 WDPN. Sean, good afternoon. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Sam. How are you?
Good. Appreciate you coming on here today. So obviously I want to start with Detroit and Cleveland. And I'm going to get the bad news out of the way first. Have you heard anything? What do you know about the knee injury to Jared Allen that he sustained last night? That kind of went under the radar because it was such a great game and the Cavs won. What's up with J.A.?
Yeah, and I think there was a little concern about Mobley as well. But nothing new that I've heard on that yet, and we'll have to see where that goes. But the Cavaliers, to their credit, have been able to fight through injuries. Have been able to win through injuries. Obviously no Donovan Mitchell last night. I think they're sort of slow playing his injury for a little bit here. If this was the playoffs, I think we'd see him out there. This is it's certainly a critical time where you need to get wins, but you've also got to be very careful about managing those injuries because you want to be 100% in a month. Like that's where you should be focused. And if you've got to take a step back here and there at this point in the season, then you do it knowing that it's going to set you up better next month.
Yeah, and the game Friday in Detroit, I think the Cavaliers kind of let that one slip through their fingers a little bit. May or may not have been a couple of bad calls by the crew that night, but whatever, you got to move past that in the NBA. And I thought last night, although I would never quantify a regular season game in March as a must win, and it wasn't a must win, but you win that game, you split with the Pistons 2-2 this year. You did it without Mitchell. You did a little bit of it without Jared Allen. Just in the small scheme of things, Sean, how big a game was that for the Cavaliers, especially to win at home?
I guess I would agree with what you're saying that, look, if the Cavaliers didn't win that one, I wouldn't say it, the sky's falling or anything like that. But I think what we saw last night really is just you kind of saw everything that is going to be a problem, I think, for Detroit when we get to the playoffs and where if these teams were to match up, where really you'd have to give the Cavaliers a lot of advantages. They're a much better shooting team. I think the way Jalen Tyson played, and certainly if he continues that, and whether he's starting or on the bench, depending on how Kenny Atkinson wants to go with that, I think that they've got a guy now that they can really rely on. Basically on both ends. I thought he was terrific against Cade Cunningham, and really the Cavs have a bunch of different guys they can throw at Cade Cunningham, and we've seen that the Pistons aren't the same when Cunningham, I think, was 4 for 16 last night. When he plays like that, they don't have a chance, and I think the Cavs have a bunch of guys that they have that they can throw at Cunningham that can really frustrate him, and I just think that. Overall, when you look at last night and sort of put it in the context of what we've seen from the Cavs lately and from the Pistons lately, I think, I would certainly pick the Cavs in the series against Detroit at this point.
Oh, I like to hear that because I think we're gonna see that series, and I think that would be just absolute cinema for anybody who's an NBA fan. Sean Deveney is our guest, Athlon Sports. Check him out here on the Sam Bourquin Show, AM 1310, WDPN, and all over our social media platforms. I want to go back to the trade. A couple of trades. First of all, we'll start with James Harden. I think I got this right. The Cavaliers are either 8-1 or 9-1 since James Harden has come aboard. Last night, 18 points. But 5 rebounds, 7 assists, obviously playing through some pain with that right thumb. I mean, Sean, you talk about a guy who is doing and saying everything the way he is supposed to. That this has been a beautiful, beautiful relationship so far.
Yeah, and he hasn't played that much with Donovan Mitchell yet, and that's going to be the real test is those two guys playing together. And I do think they fit together. I think they're both at at stages in their career where they're willing to sacrifice, where you kind of lost the hard-headedness of youth that you get a little bit in the NBA, where a guy's like, well, where's my 20 shots? And I don't think either one of them are that interested in that. I think they want to win. I think they realize, as this team has come together, that this is their best shot. I mean, look, the East is not going to get easier. You're going to get Jason Tatum back at some point, whether it's this year. We'll see, but he'll be 100% next year. You'll get Tyrese Halliburton back. Of course, everything's going to be much more difficult in the East at this time next year. So, the door is open a little bit more for the Cavaliers. And I think they know that. I think the players know that. And certainly if you're, you've been spinning your wheels as much as Donovan Mitchell and James Harden have in their careers, I think they realize this is an opportunity to really take advantage of. And that's something that they're very much aware of. So, James Harden has a reputation, and we know what the reputation is in the playoffs, and it's up to him to fix it. So that's really the next hurdle for this team and for him, certainly individually.
Sean Deveney, Heavy Sports. Check him out. Heavy Sports on all of his social media platforms. I'm going to tell you what, this may sound crazy. I was broadcasting a high school tournament game last night, and we had a little bit of extra time before the game, and I ran into somebody in the concourse, and we started talking about the Cavs. And I said, you know what? The James Harden deal, outstanding. But I'm going to tell you what, the DeAndre Hunter for Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder, that may turn out to be as big of a trade in my mind. What would you say to that?
I would agree with that, on a couple of different levels. One is you can't really make the James Harden trade until you make that one. That's right. So first you've got to set it up that way, that what they did with that deal was free themselves up. And look, they were interested in Giannis. They were trying to get Giannis at that point as well. When it was clear that wasn't going to work out, then they kind of saw that, all right, well, who's next on the list? Let's see what we can get with James Harden. But that first trade really did open up a lot of things for them. I do think that when the playoffs come around, that's really going to do a lot to help their depth and to help the way that they can attack other teams. Where you get into a 7-game series and some of these things really drag on, and you watch all the scouting tape that you've got. You watch, you think you know everything, and if you're a coach, you just want to have one more lever to pull. You want to have one more button to push, and this gave Kenny Atkinson 2 more buttons to push. That when you look at the way Hunter was playing, that he didn't have before, and Hunter, for whatever reason, that's been talked to death. Don't really know exactly what happened, how the wheels fell off so much for him after last season. But it was clear that they weren't getting anything out of him. Now they've got 2 guys that they can turn to, and really they're not home runs, but they're singles and doubles, and sometimes that's what you need. You get to the playoffs, those kinds of things pay off.
I would say perfect fits for this team, right? Yeah. The Cavs, every move they have made has been just about perfect. From Heavy Sports, Sean Deveney, our guest here on the Sam Bourquin Show, 1310 WDPN. And then I look at this box score, and I'm thinking, this is an NBA game, and look at all the guys that got significant playing time in a fairly big game in the month of March. And, Thomas Bryant goes 16 minutes, 9 points, 5 rebounds. Porter, 22 minutes, 7 points, 8 rebounds. You talked about Tyson. I mean, here's a kid, second-round pick. They got him out of Cal, really raw, was kind of going through some stuff. He had to get his head on straight, and he has done that and so much more. Could you even just take a little peek at how Tyson's game has evolved on and off the floor?
What's interesting is that I was looking at some of the stuff for the NFL draft, and apparently his brother was in town, and they've talked about potentially bringing him to the Browns, and if I'm the Cavs, and I'm calling the Browns and saying, hey, Trey, make sure you draft this kid, because if he's at every game and his brother plays like that, we're in business here. So that's something I think you've got to take into consideration. But no, I mean they've been impressed with him, and you talk to people in that organization, and he's a guy who they really feel like is not going to necessarily be a star for them, but he's going to be that sort of two-way player, a 3-and-D plus. I think sometimes we just say 3-and-D if a guy's got a high, 3-point percentage and he can play some defense and he's a 3-and-D guy. He does more than that. He can handle the ball. He can rebound. He does a lot of different things. And I think he's just scratched the surface. I think I'm excited to see where he goes. I think he's a player who, they've slow rolled him, no question, but I think they're ready to sort of unleash him. I think you certainly started to see that last night in that game. And again, the way he shut down Cade Cunningham, I think that's a real big factor for them.
Of course, the Cavs don't play till Sunday. They get a couple of days off, and another big one, national TV. ABC will be hosting the Celtics at Rockin' Arena. Here's a team, Sean, that I think could be sneaky. You talk about the East being wide open, but I don't know what's going to go on with Jason Tatum. I guess he's doing some 5-on-5. He's been running, doing some stuff. I don't know the whole situation there. If they get Jason Tatum back, let's just say he's 65, 75%. How much more dangerous does this club become? They've already won 41 games without him. Yeah. What would the Celtics look like?
And that's the big question is what does he look like when he comes back? Because he's not going to be able to come back and be Jason Tatum, but does he understand how to play at 75% and still be a guy who can contribute? That's the real. It's easier said than done. This is a guy who's used to coming in and he's everything runs through him and he's getting 18 shots a game. Now he's got to come into a team that's really had its own definition of itself. That's won 2/3 of its games without him, and he's got to be the one who figures out how to be a role player. He's never had to do that before, so that's going to be a real key for them. It's easy to say, well, they've won 40 games, boom, they have Jason Tatum. Who's going to stop them now? But the chemistry and all the little things of sports, and the Sam. I mean, we've seen this time and time again where just adding talent to a problem doesn't necessarily fix the problem. So I think it's going to take a little time. The good news is if they do get him back in the next week or so, which is kind of the feeling around the league that certainly by March 15th or so they'll have him back. They'll have a month in the regular season to get him going. And usually that first round, if they're the number 2 seed, it's probably going to be a pretty easy series. Plenty of practice time. And then by the time you get to the second round where things really get more serious, he'll be a little more ready to go and adjusted to what's happening. So, there's certainly a long way to go with that. But that's the thinking in Boston, no question.
Sean Deveney, Heavy Sports, our guest. One more quick one, Sean, and I'll kick you loose. Let's jump over to the West. Is anybody going to beat Oklahoma City?
I mean, San Antonio's been fantastic. And if anybody can do it, I think it's them. They're young and you hold that against them a little bit. But at the same time, they play with so much energy and enthusiasm that it's almost like I don't know that youth is really going to be what holds them back. Maybe some other things, a lack of depth, other things that could potentially hold them back. But I think San Antonio, you'd have to at least consider them. You can never count out Minnesota. They played better and better and better as the season's gone on. That's a team that's been to the Western Conference Finals twice. Denver, I don't know what's going on with them. They've got the talent level where they should be a lot better and they should be closer to Oklahoma City. Missing Aaron Gordon, who's going to return soon, but missing him, that's really been a big problem for them. But you'd have to factor them in. But this is all, the second tier. The Oklahoma City is a tier above all three of those teams. But I do think I think Denver, Minnesota, San Antonio, you have to at least consider those teams. But I still think, Oklahoma City, you'd pick them, 2-1 over any of those other teams at this point.
Yeah, they are scary, scary good. Sean Deveney, Heavy Sports, always appreciate the knowledge and the visit. Shaping up to be a hell of a conclusion to the regular season and the postseason not too far away. Sean, always appreciate the time. Thanks, brother.
All right, thank you, Sam.
There you go. Sean Deveney, Heavy Sports. Check him out on all of your favorite social media platforms.